Hey, welcome to Downloaded. This is the show where we gather the most opinionated voices in the tech field today. Focus all that energy on the stories impacting the tech world. I'm your host, Jim Louderback. I'm super psyched to have Dean Takahashi here from GamesBeat, part of VentureBeat. Also working on a great conference happening in October. So thanks for joining me.
Yeah,
and Max Scoville from Rev3 Games. It's great to have you here as well.
Great to be here,
now,
Jim.
Max, you just got back from PAX, the big video game show that happened up in Seattle over Labor Day weekend. Dean, you've been covering video games forever. You were covering it from afar. Super interesting show, it sounds like. So let's jump right in and talk about that. Max, what was the biggest thing you saw there?
Oh God! I mean, it was hands-on with a lot of smaller indie games. I got to play with the new Oculus Rift, which was nice.
Let's talk about the Oculus Rift since
sure,
you brought it up. So what's the big deal about the Oculus Rift, and what'd you think?
They doubled the resolution, which is.
By the way, let's explain what it is first. It's a thing you stick on your head.
Goggles,
You stick your head in a video game.
It's a virtual reality shroud for
It's
your
those
brain.
dumb things they had at the mall in 1995, except it works.
Yeah.
And doesn't cost $3 to do it for 10 minutes. This guy, Palmer Luckey, who's a just crazy boy genius, scientist, inventor, put this on Kickstarter and made it. And they were the first one, I think, I actually demoed it for the first time last year at PAX.
Yeah.
And that one was literally cobbled together from gaffer tape. And they put it on my face and they were like, here, play some Doom 3. And I was like, okay. This works. It's a little bit dizzying. It's a little bit grainy, but it
was
works.
low res, so right? It wasn't. It just wasn't. The resolution was kind of like when you played Doom back, 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think the point of what they did last year was really to establish that they could do the tracking and that you could sort of follow things and that it wouldn't actually make you throw up.
That's what I would worry about.
What I would say is most notable about the new one is they bumped the resolution. I think the dev kits were 720p and they bumped them up to 1080.
1080p, right?
And it's really noticeable. And
really,
the thing that you notice, it's less that you notice the kind of the graininess and the motion blur and the tracking. And more that you notice the resolution of the textures around you. I was playing Hawken, which is the robot game, and I was looking around. I'm like, I should really fix up this robot. It's getting kind of grimy in here.
They expose that problem though of like the way games are designed now is that if there's something off in the corner somewhere, they're kind of not going to decorate it very nicely or make it look so real. Yeah. But now in this thing, you can go anywhere inside the environment and you can go up close to something and look at it, and it's going to look fake, and you're going to go, oh, this kind of looks, like it was designed to be in a quarter or something like that.
Yeah. Right. So far, we haven't really seen a whole lot of games that are made specifically for the Rift, which is, with the exception of the guys who do EVE Online. They made EVR, which is a flight simulator made specifically for the Oculus Rift, and it started out as kind of an in-house thing. I played that at E3, not in HD, and it was still very, very impressive because they started from the ground up, and they're like, let's make this functional.
That's cool.
But Oculus has sort of captured the imagination of people. I mean, it has really sort of started almost like a movement. And, there are people posting these videos of things that they're doing with them, like the guy who did the skydiving demo, where, somebody created the demo, and then this guy sort of then said, oh, I'm going to take this and see what it's like to actually skydive. But pretend that he's doing it by hanging from a tree. Yeah. And so then he does a video of like what the experience is like as he's falling in the demo, but he's really just sort of he's under a big fan that's blowing wind up at him.
That's true.
And one of the other things in the same vein, Dean, I guess. Did Sony with the PS4 start talking about their virtual reality stuff? What was up with that?
That was a leak, and so nobody knows if that's really true or not. But yes, supposedly in 2014, Sony will do its own version of a virtual reality system. And that could be something that they, Oculus has been making news for more than a year now. So it could be something that they've decided to pick up on because they've seen so much excitement around Oculus.
Just another thing to say that it's coming for the PS4, so buy it.
It's like an add-on accessory peripheral, right?
Yeah. So Dean, what was the biggest thing that you saw coming out of PAX this year?
Microsoft did talk about sort of the final specs for the Xbox and their launch date, and so it's November 22nd, a week after Sony. They also increased, the clock speed of their processor by 10%, and they said they're now shipping their boxes as well to retail, to stock up for this launch. And the interesting thing is that, this time. I did a book on the Xbox 360, right? And
I remember, a very nice book.
This time, 7 years ago, they were at a 32% yield. They were trying to churn these boxes out.
Or was it the chips that were at a 32% yield? Or?
And the end boxes coming out of the factory.
Oh, really? So only 32% of them actually...
only 32 out of 100 that came out of the factory actually worked.
And then think of all the ones that had rings of death after that, right?
Yeah. So 50% of these things failed in the next couple of years or so, right? Oof. But they sort of felt like they were on a march. They had to do what they promised. They had to get 1 million or so of these things out by Christmas. They did that, but at great expense to their reputation. Yeah. So now, though, what they did by, say, increasing the clock speed, they're sort of saying, we're confident enough about the quality of this device that we're going to bump up the speed 10%, and that suggests that the yield on these things coming out now is very good. And so then you can conclude from that they're going to have a lot of supply. They're going to have a lot of boxes out by November. And I think that's a very good sign when anybody feels confident enough to increase the clock speed of a chip.
Yeah, Max, what do you think the significance of the clock speed increase is?
I think it's odd that they're announcing this kind of so late in the game, and also this is the second little hardware tweak that they've done. I think it's odd to be
the graphics chip.
Yeah, I think it's odd to be announcing that kind of stuff kind of before release date. It's.
And I think one of those problems is that the Sony's is more powerful. It's a higher performing box,
right.
And so Microsoft actually is motivated to do this.
A friend of mine pointed something out. Of course, in the gaming industry, we're all just like, "Oh, the PS4 is superior. It's going to win. Of course it is." But the reality is that a whole lot of people are going to go and they go, "Oh, hey, Xbox, I have one of those. I'll get the new one."
Yeah.
And my friends are on there. That's where the Call of Duty is, and then they get it. And then the fact that the PS4 is $100 cheaper because it doesn't come with a Kinect. A friend of mine pointed out that there are a lot of people out there who will walk into a store and go, "Oh, that one's more expensive, therefore it's probably more powerful."
Yeah,
they're not going to be looking at clock speeds and GPUs and stuff. They're going to go, "Oh, yeah, that one's $100 more."
Yeah.
I'm going to make my neighbor
a lot of
jealous.
people are going to say, 10% increase in performance. I can't tell the difference. But they're also sort of going to say, they're going to look at the games that are available for the PS4 and the Xbox One, and they're going to go, well, the Xbox One's games look better right off the bat.
Well, so why is that?
Even though Sony's more powerful.
Why? I mean, look, and talk about some of the exclusive titles that are coming out for the Xbox, and why do you think? I mean, do they look better, and why do they look better?
Well, Microsoft's got this game, exclusive game from Respawn called Titanfall.
Right.
Which won all of the awards at E3.
It's fun. I played it twice.
Yeah, it's
good. What do you mean you played it?
I played it twice at PAX.
Yeah. So you spent a lot of time playing Titanfall at PAX,
I played a total of maybe 10 minutes.
So we sent you to PAX to play Titanfall. It
was Adam Sessler's idea. I was following him. But it's what's interesting is that's the thing they're putting forward. That's the big exciting thing, and that's running on Source Engine.
It's also a 2014 game, so it's kind of cheating.
So it's not going to be coming out when they launch. So Titanfall's 2014. Yeah. Is it early 2014 or
it's
late?
Too bad for Sony that they have the more powerful box, but they don't have a game right now that everybody's going to gravitate to. It's like, that's the game I have to have.
Right. So you think Titanfall is going to be the Halo of this box? Max?
I mean, I think it's definitely going after. I would say it's going after Call of Duty more than anything else. I'd say. I mean, obviously Bungie's new thing, Destiny, is kind of going after the Halo crowd. There's one's more military, one's more kind of whimsical. One's got bigger, sunsets and paintings and stuff. I mean, I think it's interesting that Sony is definitely going after gamers. They are going after the hardcore audience. And they're like, hey, check it out, we got indie games. We got a ton of indie support. And it's great that they have the more powerful box, but they're not exactly showing it off by being like, check out these weird little artsy games, Check out this stuff that looks like, HD Super Nintendo.
Right.
It's like gone are the days when they could show up with an exclusive on Grand Theft Auto. Right?
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting that, Microsoft came out with their first Xbox ad, right? And it didn't have anything to do with gaming.
Well, that was the same thing with their big press event.
This is it. The NFL. It's all about the NFL, and it's all about Skype. And they actually apparently, I guess they did a good job. I haven't seen it yet. I'm actually playing it here for the first time. But they're not even talking about gaming.
Yeah, it does point to the difference in strategies. Like Microsoft wants this to be the the gateway to all entertainment in your home, and they've been driving at that since for 13 years or so. But Sony sort of realized that they missed the gamers in the last generation, and that they should double down on gamers and get them to get the box early. And then everything good will come from that. I mean, the boxes will probably equalize at some point on what entertainment you can do on them. Like you have YouTube on one, you have YouTube on the other. Right. But what you emphasize first to get it sold, especially when you're going head to head like this in the very beginning, it could be very important. So Sony is coming out probably with, I think, a better message that this is all about the gamers. The gamers are going to pick this up first. They're going to be willing to wait in line. They're going to be willing to spend money, money at the beginning. Microsoft is eventually, it has the broader strategy of eventually getting to a larger audience, but you don't get there unless you get the gamers first.
Right. So, Max, you were there at PAX, and you walked the floor. You talked to a lot of people. Sony was there in force. Microsoft was there in force.
Yeah.
A little bit, maybe not huge force, but they were there.
Yeah.
What was your sense of the sort of mood of the attendees?
It was overwhelmingly in favor of the PS4.
Oh, it was?
People
really?
were, I actually did a video or went around Xbox One or PS4 to about, 150 people or something. And then I would say most of them said PS4. And then a handful of them said Xbox. It wasn't completely landslide, but it was noticeably PS4. And I think that they're two companies coming at it from entirely different angles in a way that's kind of interesting to look at, because historically, Sony makes consumer electronics that are for the whole family. The PlayStation, obviously, you play games on it, but at the same time, the first one had a good sound chip in it. It was also a CD player. You could hook it up to your speakers and have a nice stereo going on. The second one was a DVD player. The third one was a Blu-ray player. And they kind of missed the boat with the whole Blu-ray, or they came too early for the boat for the Blu-ray craze, and it kind of, I think, scared some people off. And they had the crazy, weird cell processor hardware that made developers not really want to make games for it. So they didn't really have the entertainment audience. They didn't really have the gamer audience. Meanwhile, Microsoft is typically they make software, and the first Xbox wasn't really trying to be an entertainment box. It was a gaming. It was a cool game box. And then the second one kind of, oh, hey, you can run Netflix on it, and suddenly it's a $300 Netflix box. And this time around, they're going straight after the entertainment side of things. And they're like, hey, check it out. You get NFL, you get, TV. You can shout at the TV, and then it turns on for you, and it's in your house. And PlayStation's like, hey, gamers, come back, please. We have games.
We have this cool stuff.
Sony's messaging has just sort of been spot on in this generation. Like, they came out and announced in February, well ahead of Microsoft's May announcement. And Microsoft, all along the way, looks like they've been copying things that Sony has come up with. Yeah. And Microsoft, stepped in a big pile when they announced policies that the gamers hated. Like, no more used games. It's going to be always on, and Connect. Who knows whether you're going to have privacy or not with Connect.
What do you guys think of the significance of the launch date? One's launching on 11/22, one's launching a week earlier. They're later in Europe. Is that a big deal? Or does anyone care?
I'd say so. I think it's going to make. I think that word of mouth is going to make a huge difference. Yeah. Because a lot of people obviously are going to get the PS4 first because it comes out first, and it already has a huge, overwhelming amount of pre-orders, and people are really excited about it. All the gamers, and they're going to bring it home, and they're going to play it, and they're going to be really excited about it, and they're going to tell their friends, and their friends are going to say, "Mom, I want one." Yeah. And it's obviously Xbox is Xbox, but that week makes a big difference.
Although the let's see, 11/22 for the Xbox, that's like right before Thanksgiving.
Yeah, so. They're going to get Black Friday, but it's like are they going to be kind of semi-cleaned out by then? Yeah. Is it going to be also people who typically would be lining up at GameStop to pick up their stuff? Maybe they're going to be away visiting family. It seems like kind of an odd thing to put it that close. I got mine all
well, I'll be in town, so I'm ready to go. I got my Xbox One ready to go.
I think like the focus on U.S. and Europe is interesting because there is. This whole contract manufacturing thing is much better than it used to be, right? And you could churn out millions of things now that you couldn't do in years past. So, the emphasis in the past was when you had just a little bit of units, you could start out in Japan, right? And Japan is now not even on the radar for is it coming out this year at all? Don't think so, right? They're going straight to the biggest markets first, and they're trying to satisfy the demand in those big markets. And because they're racing each other, they are focusing on the markets where they think they have to win. Europe is actually very important this time around.
Totally. Let's talk about the third wheel, Nintendo. And Nintendo talks a little bit about, I guess the story at PAX was wooing indie gamers, trying to bring indie gamers in because I guess nobody else wants to build for the platform, the Wii U.
I didn't hear a word of that.
Max, what?
I didn't hear a word about them doing
Really?
that.
Yeah.
No.
So there was nothing there, huh?
I don't think that they've been kind of a little bit behind. I would say a little bit.
Just a wee bit.
I mean, last I heard about them with indie gamers was they had decided to change their policy where you needed a physical office to produce games for Nintendo.
Oh, okay.
That was them rolling that back so that they could support people who maybe program in their basement in their underwear, as opposed to having a physical office. They've, changed that rule. That was a few months back, but I mean, I think there's so much kind of old-fashioned behavior in that end of things.
Yeah. So what do you think about Nintendo?
I think like it says a lot that say something like Minecraft is not on Nintendo platforms, right? And that's probably the biggest indie hit that has ever come, and it's on it's on Microsoft, and so like I think they've carried this message for a while, but you look at the results, they have Unity on the Wii U, but nobody's done much with it. The hits haven't come. And so Sony has also come in and said, we're the indie platform. And then Microsoft has now come in and said, we're the indie platform. And each one of these guys, recognizes that the Angry Birds style hit could come from any one of these folks now. And that's why indies are more important than they used to be. But you can't draw indies to a platform that hasn't gotten off the ground or is dying. And that's the Wii U's problem right now.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Nintendo? They have a chance
they did what they had to do. They cut their price by $50, kind of.
Yeah.
Right?
They took $50
deluxe
is something
unit.
no one wants.
Yeah.
Still got to pay money for it.
Yeah.
Max, what do you think Nintendo's? Where are they going? I mean, you were a Nintendo fanboy for a while.
I mean, yeah, I grew up in the '90s. It was a thing that you did.
It was a thing you did.
I think that they're a toy company, and I think that games have moved past that to something that we haven't quite put in its proper corner yet. I think they're growing up very gradually, and I think that Nintendo is kind of sticking to what they know best, which is something that doesn't. They're trying to appeal to the Xbox and PlayStation crowd, and I think they're kind of missing the point.
Yeah.
I mean, the 2DS, for instance.
Yeah.
The 2DS is a device for 7-year-olds. It is. They took the 3DS and they removed the 3D, and they made it so that it's no longer a clamshell and is now a little tablet thing. I would say they had kind of an ace in the hole here because I know so many people who are like, I don't really like the 3D. That's kind of dumb. It comes out the same day as Pokemon. It's $130. Yeah, I mean, it's going to sell like hotcakes. It's going to do just fine. But I just feel like there's so many. They were targeting the 7-year-olds who don't care if it is hideous or silly looking. They could have maybe spent a little bit longer in development there and designed it a little bit more sleekly and made something that college kids are like, hey, what the hell, $130, that's, 2 paychecks, I'll buy one of those. Get back into Pokemon. It's like, they're
missing the boat.
Their argument this time around is for the season is that they finally have a good drumbeat of first-party titles coming out. But they still have some of the same problem of like, here's another Mario title, here's another Zelda title, here's a.
There's nothing new.
Yeah.
Speaking of something that was new at the show and on the indie game side, was the Dragon Cancer game. Did you guys take a look at that? You got any idea of the significance of that?
Well, I didn't see it myself. I'm familiar with the idea.
Yeah.
Adam Sessler came up to me and said, "Oh, that was the worst interview I've ever done." And I said, "What happened?" And he said, "Oh," and apparently it's a guy who's making a game about his kid dying of cancer.
Yeah.
And how do you interview someone about that? Normally it's like, so the new Call of Duty has a dog in it. So your kid's dying. Like what? You're making a game, a thing that you play about something that is the most serious, tragic thing possible.
Yeah.
It's nuts.
Well, it creates the interesting challenge there that I'm glad to see games move sort of beyond toys, move beyond, say, blockbuster-style movies to serious subjects, right? To things that Miramax would address in some way. And there's no reason games can't do that. It's great to see the sort of focus on something meaningful or artistic. Here, the challenge is, your medium is supposed to be fun and entertaining, and it's hard to envision some of these things being fun. But some people are trying. There's a guy doing a Holocaust game, and he wants you to feel what it's like to be, sort of a victim in this massive tragedy. but he's sort of using a child who has a very good imagination, and that imagination sort of is the pretty part of the game. And that, so he finds a way to bring something cartoonish into what is a very sort of larger, serious story. And I think that's an interesting approach. And I don't know how well some of these are going to go over, though, because it's a stark contrast between what you do for fun, how whether the medium is cartoonish or not, and then your message of this is a massive tragedy, right?
It's nice to see people push the envelope, though, on what the media can do.
I would say the biggest problem with that right now is there's a lot of people out there who are pretty married to the idea of games being fun and not open to the idea that they can be fun and they can also be serious and do something interesting. The argument that that's not a game comes up a lot. I know a girl who did Depression Quest. It's like a text adventure where you basically go through the feelings of having depression. Sounds fun, right? Yeah, no? More recently, there was Gone Home, which was a little indie. Again, the word game is what I call it because that's what it sort of is, but the people will argue like, well, there's no fail state, you can't lose. And that's a game where you are returning home from a trip away and you are piecing together your dysfunctional family. It's really rather dark and depressing. Bizarre. And there's nothing, you don't shoot any aliens. There are no vampires you got to fight. There's nothing, you don't race cars. It's all, you're like reading letters, and people are like, that's not a game. And I'm like, well, I don't know what you want to call it, but it's doing something very interesting, and it's doing it very well, and it's cool to see that.
The good thing is there's been successes like Journey, last year was the game of the year for a lot of different publications, and that was just an experience of going from one place to another. It was not really a game, but it was sort of a very wonderful experience.
So Max, what was the best game you played while you were there?
Oh, what did I like best? I played one game called Scale, which was very, very interesting. It was sort of like Portal, except instead of making like holes that you go through, portals, you have a gun that shrinks and enlarges things, and just about everything in the level you are shrinking. So you go up to a dollhouse and you make it the size of a regular house, and you go inside and you pick something up, and you go outside the dollhouse, and then you make the thing that you pulled out of the dollhouse get really big. I mean, it's very one of those kind of Alice in Wonderland concepts that, drink me, that kind of thing.
Yeah, right.
Very, very trippy, very cool. I mean, just interesting game design.
Cool. So Dean, you weren't there, but you were covering it from afar. Was there one game that stood out that you said, oh man, that is something that's going to be really big and that I'm looking forward to playing?
Well, I would go back to just the ones that seem to be big and are getting bigger. So Titanfall is getting big and bigger, and Oculus Rift as well.
The Oculus. I will say the one from also watching afar and watching your guys' coverage, the one that I'm most excited about is Dragon Age Inquisition, which I think looks really cool. I like the Dragon Age games. I didn't love them.
Yeah.
But I love the concept of this game that you are actually the guy in charge. You're not just a peon. You're the one who's got to bring everyone together, and so it adds like a little bit of the civilization aspect to Dragon Age. So at least as far as I can tell, I don't know if you got a chance to play with it or anything.
I mean, they showed it off to us, but we didn't get to play it. But they did their homework.
Yeah.
I went into that being like, Dragon Age. There's gonna be romance scenes and a lot of dialogue, with little
with the wheel.
Whatever. And then they showed us this massive thing. Something they're doing there that's very smart that I think is interesting is opposed to having one huge open world like you'd see in Skyrim, where you've kind of got to you have to
gallop across the entire world to get something done.
I mean, you still have to do that a fair amount, but they have open worlds, so it's as opposed to trying to make this big ecosystem that makes sense. So you go from you're like, oh, we want to have cool Arctic mountain stuff, and we also want to have little swamps and summery places with flowers, and then having to make all the stuff that happens between them, I mean, you can't just walk from a desert to a snowy mountain just like that and have it be sensible.
Right.
But they've got kind of different little areas. We saw like a kind of a flowery sort of, it looked like Sound of Music, and then we saw this sudden barren desert, and they were separate areas, but.
The temperate zone transition problem.
Exactly.
I just made that up.
Polygon's going to use that in a review. Just watch.
There you go. I want to talk about the really big news of the week. Yahoo's new logo. Check it out. Like it or hate it, they have a new logo. You got to take a look at this. This is a new versus the old logo right there. This is such a big story. Dean, you're so excited about this, aren't you?
I am excited, but I think the font designers of the world are even more excited because, you know, I mean, who knows what font they had and what they went to, you know, but somebody got paid a lot in between the old and the new here.
Well, the thing is, they went from a serif font to a sans serif font,
you know your
which is a
fonts.
really big deal. Max, you are actually surprising to me because you host video game shows, but you actually have a great art sense and design sense.
I have a design background.
I didn't realize it until somebody was like, "Oh yeah, I get that."
I do all the Rift 3 Games thumbnails. I would say that this is neither here nor there. They really didn't do much. Like they dropped this. It looks kind of dated still.
It's kind of rendered. It's a little 3D now. It's got a little bezel on it.
Yeah, it's so, I don't know. It pissed off a lot of design people. That's for sure.
So what do you think about the process, if you're thinking from a design perspective, right? Because they went through 30 different iterations, and every day they put a new one up on Yahoo and My Yahoo, et cetera, so that people would comment on it. Is it designed by committee? Does that work?
I wouldn't say so. if that's the indication right there, then I don't know.
Dean, what do you think? I mean, you've designed a ton of different publications and websites and things like that, and you know the design process. Do you think they ended up in the right place by the way they did it, or is it just a train wreck?
It's a little more readable from farther away, but you know, I don't know if that makes a big deal or not.
How far away from Yahoo are you usually?
I
mean, do you ever like see it from a distance? There's a website. I'll go there.
Maybe when they do their giant billboard in San Francisco again.
Yeah.
Maybe,
Well, you know what I find really interesting? So the early days of Yahoo was all about purple, and their logo was purple. And so you would go to Yahoo, and they would have purple conference rooms and purple chairs. I remember meeting with Jerry Yang, and it was in the purple room. They had purple cars with the big Yahoo logo on it. There's no more purple on this logo. That, to me, is kind of a big deal, losing purple. Dean, you agree? Max, you agree?
I think that, I mean, the name Yahoo is it's wacky. It's off the wall.
Yeah.
And they kind of made it sort of serious. It looks much more toned down. It kind of looks like the Condé Nast logo. Like
It's very took the yodel out of the
Yeah, they took the Yahoo out of Yahoo.
I figure if they're gonna make it go serious, why not just rebrand completely and call it like Ynet or something?
Yeah, or just call it News You Must Check
Hashtag
Today.
Y.
Hashtag Y. What is this? What do you think it says about Marissa Mayer? Do you think, is she deflecting attention?
Are we going to talk about this one for 40 minutes or so?
No, we won't go on.
Okay.
It's my last question for you because look, it's a logo. I think it's really interesting.
Okay.
You don't want to talk about the logo. Let's talk about another logo then, okay? We're going to talk about YouTube because all the people are up in arms about the YouTube logo. Check that out. That is the new YouTube logo. Now, they're sort of just teasing it out there, but a lot of people don't like it. I actually like it. I think it looks kind of cool. Do you care?
I like the old one. I mean, the old one looked fine to me. And,
The old
I
one.
don't understand.
This is the old one, by the way. If you want to remember what it looks like, you're probably watching this on YouTube right now.
Like
so it's probably not that
the
too
old one is
difficult
just
to
so
figure out what the logo is,
recognizable. You know. I mean, even it seemed like it even had even more brand power than Yahoo to me.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, to me, although I do like this, Max, it seems like just another boring logo.
I think it looks terrible right now, but when the iOS upgrades and goes to the new one and looks all very flat and papercraft, it's going to be very much.
Good point.
It looks
going
really
flat.
bad now, and then everything's going to, and also the new Xbox, and like it's all, everything's going that direction. You know?
So it's interesting you bring up everything going flat because now I'm going back to the Yahoo logo. They actually added 3D rendering to it. Yeah. They're so behind.
I don't. Yeah.
Go back to cupcakes. Last thing I want to talk about, actually, I talk about confectionery. I want to talk about the other big news of the week in branding. This is not a show about branding, but there's just a lot going on because it's right after Labor Day. A lot of people up in arms about the fact that it wasn't key lime pie, but it was KitKat for the new version of Android. The thing that I found interesting about this story personally was that they actually went to a real branded company and they came up with this KitKat. They're giving away millions of KitKats along with the software. It's kind of like the selling of this super cute icon, right?
Well, it's I don't know. They had desserts for the longest time, and I don't really eat Kit Kats for dessert. So I'm a little puzzled at it.
Yeah. What about you, Max?
I think when we start merging tech and food, mass-produced food, we're in for a horrible thing. It's going to get very, very idiocracy very fast. We're going to be talking into food. Just
talking to a Kit Kat bar. Actually, but our phones are basically candy bars, right? Don't they call them candy bar phones?
They do.
Yeah. So the thing that I did a little research on this story because I had nothing else to do this morning. There are not very many confectionery names that begin with K. Really, key lime pie was the only one that people could come up with, except for Kit Kat, which is actually with a K, not a C, obviously. But it. So the next one. Now this is where I was going. The next one is L. There are a lot of L's either. First of all, there are no branded candy names based on L that I could find except in other languages. I came up with Lollipop. Mm-hmm. Okay. Lemon Drop, although I think they should, maybe they want to move from calling an operating system based on candies or confectionery to alcoholic drinks, because Lemon Drop is an alcoholic drink as well. Mm-hmm. I think this is the problem of saying that we're going to name each of our generations by a letter and then put a sweet behind it. Like, they kind of run out of steam when you get to K and L.
Do they have a department that's in charge of that? Is there someone whose job it is to be like, well, we looked at the alphabet and we looked at some desserts and we came up with this?
I want to see what they do for X then, right?
Yeah. There are a lot of people who spend way too much time thinking about this. I found out this site, news.02 from the UK, they are providing these stories about 10 sweet suggestions for Android's next names. And there are tons of these. Kendall mint cake, lemon meringue pie, muffin, nougat, Oreo, peanut butter jelly sandwich. That is actually, peanut butter jelly sandwich is not a confectionery. Quaker Oats, you're going too far over. Raspberry beret.
That's a Prince song.
Like I said, people have way too much. All right, our friends over at Microsoft, what did they do? They bought Nokia. Think it's a good move, Dean?
I think it's one of their sort of options that they had to do. They had to do something to beef up their presence in phones. And whatever else they were doing really wasn't working. They had to close this partnership with Nokia, so made sense. But sort of like teaming together two things that aren't winning right now.
Yeah, and here's my feeling about just phones in general. I think we're sort of reaching an end stage in what we can do with these candy bar phones. I mean, Max, you probably remember this. Remember when Nokia had its own line of game phones?
Oh, the N-Gage.
The N-Gage.
The taco phone.
Right, exactly.
I have one of those on my desk, actually.
I probably have one kicking around somewhere, too. Never used it.
I don't know. It's Nokia's always kind of do a weird little thing on the side there.
Yeah.
It was that newest one, the color one with the really good camera. People like that.
It's really nice, yeah. It's a Windows phone, which means people don't buy it, but it's a really nice phone. I mean, it's a great design.
Yeah.
I see this as just another example, and I don't know, Dean, if you see this as well. You've been tracking Microsoft for a while. Mm-hmm. They tend to get into things and buy things when they're on their downswing rather than the upswing. Do you buy that?
Yeah, I think, I mean, they design on the inside as much as they can. Sometimes they're chasing somebody. They're doing a lot of catching up with Apple or Google or whoever. But, when they're ready to throw in the towel, it's almost like an admission of failure when you have to go buy somebody.
Yeah, like Skype. I mean, they bought Skype, and it's kind of late in the lifetime of Skype. The other thing I think Microsoft does, which is really interesting, is they go out and they're very innovative. They create things and then it doesn't work and then they forget about it and then 10 years later it takes off. I mean, think about tablets, right? They used to do. We had Windows. What was the
tablet PC,
Pen OS?
Right? Yeah.
They had their Pen OS, right? So really interesting. So, do you think Max, you'll ever use a Nokia phone?
I wasn't really planning on it,
Yeah.
Maybe what if they rebooted the N-Gage?
Yeah.
Would tie it with the Xbox?
What if they got Nintendo to do the N-Gage with them, and that was the next Nintendo?
That'd probably be a smart move for Nintendo at this point.
Well, they got the exclusive Halo game on the Surface tablets, right? So they take these and they launch Nokia Halo phones or Halo tablets. And
do you think? Actually, I bet they don't even keep the Nokia name, right? Because Nokia is still a company over in Finland doing other things.
I think the Finns would sort of revolt if they tried to do a little too much of that. They had to build this giant data center in Finland in order to appease the folks who are going to probably lose their jobs there, right?
Personally, I think I'm glad because I never know how to pronounce it, Nokia or Nokia. Or I remember one time when it first came out, they actually sent some people over to teach us how to say it. It's the accent is on the first syllable, not the second syllable. So the other thing it brings up, we talked about this last week, Stephen Elop, who runs Nokia, was at Microsoft. It could be the next CEO, right?
Yeah, it sort of speaks to the fact that they don't really have somebody really well-known and identifiable lower in the ranks at Microsoft right now.
Yeah.
And Elop has been in the headlines, quite a bit in the last couple
And
years.
I can't say he's done a great job with Nokia, but he's done something. So let's move on to watches. More phone stuff. Samsung releasing their watch. Do either of you get a chance to play with it or look at it or think about it? Tell me what you think about Samsung's little.
VentureBeat got an early look at the the sort of the prototype. That,
Right. What'd you think?
I think it's a little blocky. I guess the screen has to be bigger for you to actually see anything on this screen. And I think the Rivo one from Qualcomm may be interesting. I haven't looked at that either, but the Mirasol display should be make things more visible on it. Whether you're in a bright lights or indoors, you're supposed to be able to see these kinds of Mirasol screens anywhere.
So I have a picture of that up here too, the Qualcomm Talk, which is what they announced, and using this, as you said, this Mirasol screen, which uses the e-ink technology like on the Kindle, but it's color. It's some of Qualcomm's technology. Really cool. So it's also a smartwatch for Android smartphones. Just think about the Talk is it's a peripheral for all Android phones. The Samsung one though is really just for Samsung phones. That's kind of limiting, isn't it, Max?
I would say so. I mean, there's a lot of them out there, but it's the whole watch thing is it's so odd because I had the iPod Nano,
right,
and I put the little case for it, and I loved that. And then after having it for about a week, I was like, I realized why people don't do this so much because you need two hands to do it as opposed to a phone you pull out and you're using one hand, and you're riding the bus, you're holding. Trying to change a song is tricky. And then apparently there's the rumor that Apple's got one in the works.
Apple's got one in the works.
Maybe, who knows?
September 10th.
Yeah.
What's the one you've got? You've got one on
I have
the wrist.
the Basis watch, and this is very functional. It's fitness focused. It tracks your heartbeat. It tells you how much you sleep, number of steps you take in a day, and then it sort of calculates a more accurate measure of your calories you're burning. So this is sort of a category of the fitness watches, fitness devices. I think that have a good place, on your body, right? But like Samsung is talking about a super watch here, right? I mean, this is doing lots of things, and it's like our super phones.
Smart
the super phones were better than the smartphones, right? And now these super watches are coming along.
It's funny that like these watches people have been playing around with this for a long time. Microsoft did an MSN watch at one point, and I was rooting around in my closet of dead products, and I found this. This is from Casio, the PC Unite watch. It's probably like 15 or 20 years old, where you'd actually hook it up to your PC. I think it talked to your Palm Pilot or something, and it allows you to do things like download schedule, contact, mode, lots of other things. So the PC Unite watch.
Looks smaller than the Samsung one.
Yeah, it didn't really take off either. But it does have an LCD display, so you can see it outside in the sunshine. It's interesting. I think I'm not so sure personally that a watch is the right place for my interface to the rest of the technology world. I think, and you guys could probably say that I'm crazy, I want smart clothes. So give me a whole display on my sleeve, right? Give me just all in smart threads, so that when I'm walking down, I'm like, doo, 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 because your watch sits here, right? But that's kind of it's uncomfortable to twist your arm like that, right?
I like that Nokia video where they had some of these futuristic things, and you could sort of slap on, like your watch or your whatever onto your arm, sort of like
I think
those little.
What is it in
plastic
video
things.
games? Are they Greaves? Is that what they are? Remember?
In Fallout?
Yeah, something like that, where
the Pit Boy.
Yeah, or even in like Dragon Age and things like that, or some of those RPGs where you get real armor. I think they're called Greaves.
Gauntlets. Yeah.
Gauntlets.
Doom
Yeah,
has one.
that's what we need. We need digital gauntlets.
Yeah, a cuirass. I don't know.
All ready for digital gauntlets.
I think what's interesting about the whole e-watch thing is that no one's made one that looks like a watch that someone who's not a techie person would go out and buy. And I think the second that some company realizes that, hey, what if we hired a watch designer to design one of these? Then they're kind of honest. I mean, once they stop looking like G-Shock and start looking a little bit more like, I don't know, Rolex. Get a classy leather band and a nice case, and you've got, make it fashionable.
Right, make it fashionable.
And you got Dolce &
I saw
Gabbana
a good
iPhone
quote
cases.
this week from somebody who said that these wearables have to look really good or they have to be invisible.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. I think that invisibility aspect of it is really important. They have to kind of fade away, and none of those watches really look that good. I mean, that's actually a good-looking watch you have there.
Yeah.
But
Basis, yeah.
Yeah. But
The Nike Fuel Band was a good example because that was kind of just like a cyberpunk Livestrong bracelet almost. Like it's very, very unobtrusive. It's just a bracelet,
all right, so enough about watches because we're all going to be able to try all these different things, see how they work. There's going to be a lot of innovation. Pebble kind of started it, but before we get into video games, 'cause I think this is interesting. We talk about the N.S.A. and their hacking. It seems like every week, right? But the latest story is that they've been hacking all the encryption that's out there and really getting down deep into all the things that we thought were keeping us safe. N.S.A, are you surprised that they are in trying to break encryption? They've been successful?
There's been rumors for a long time that there are backdoors built into some of these systems, these encryption systems, and that the Greek government was a victim of this as well. And Tor, another way people use to anonymize themselves, also had some bad news this week on that front.
Right, the shadow net, exactly. That they actually, with Tor, you can get in and figure out who a Tor user is.
And Bitcoin as well, apparently, is something that is traceable in some ways if you don't cover your tracks. So yeah, it is a problem that everything that sort of supports the ability to go underground with technology now seems to have been all undermined in some way.
Right. Max, it seems like we're just not safe on the net.
I would agree. It's committing things to information. You're putting it out there. I don't think I ever really assumed that there was, privacy there. You're spreading it. You're cross-pollinating information.
All those wearable technologies are just going to make it so much easier to just spy on everybody as you're doing things with them or talking to them as well. So
yeah, I agree. So in other words, these things, these watches, not safe. Don't use them. Let's one last thing on this, just if you want to just explore on how you can hopefully protect yourself a little bit. Bruce Schneier in TheGuardian.com wrote a nice story about a guide to staying secure, where he lists I think 5 ways that you can sort of help keep yourself secure. So I'm not sure that the N.S.A is probably reading this story too. So they're probably out trying to hack each one of them as we go talk about it. I want to thank both you guys, Dean Takahashi from GamesBeat and VentureBeat. Good to have you here.
Thank you.
Max Scoville, as always, Rev3 Games. You can check out all the PAX coverage he's been doing. It sounds like the GamesBeat conference is going to be really fun too in October.
we're going to have Adam Sessler there as one of the
right.
moderators. So
Very cool.
October 29th, 30th, Redwood City.
And that'll be in Redwood City, California, so make sure you check that out. If you have any questions, comments, suggestions, anything about what we've been talking about, or anything else you want to talk about, it's YouTube. You can comment below right here. And until next time, you've been watching Download.